So I'll just go ahead and start now then.
We all good? Good.
Hey guys, and welcome to episode 17 of the Diablo Herald. We have got heaps to talk about this week. We've got legendary item improvements, we've got class skill changes, and some unofficial patch notes to talk about. There's just been a blog almost every day. I was really surprised about that. I was expecting this patch to take ages, and I was expecting, a class blog per week. And then, the first one came out, and then the next one came out, and the third day I'm like, what, there's 3 already? It was crazy. And, just going to take a drink right there in the middle of my intro. Today we have someone new with us, Cyanide. Say hello.
Hi guys.
We also have ZiggyD, as always. How's it going, Ziggy?
Oh, I'm going well, as always.
Cool. And Highlander is with us.
Hello, hello.
Auction House Genius.
Cool.
Can I call you that?
No,
Okay, I won't do it again. Sorry. I'm sorry?
you get one chance. That's alright.
Cool. So we will start with talking about some legendaries. There's some pretty cool new procs and affixes on legendaries. Some pretty exciting stuff. You can read about it in the Blizzard blog post. I'm sure most people have read about it. But for anyone that doesn't know, a lot of them are skills that some champions and elites already have. Stuff like shielding. There's a shield that will give you a chance to be shielded, just like shielded mobs, which is pretty cool. There is the Firewalkers, which have basically a molten effect, which is cool as well. Was there any that standed out for you guys? Highlander, anything stand out for you? Particularly exciting?
Oh, look, the one with you summon the demon with the fire chains. I can't remember which legendary that is. Maybe somebody who's not talking and needs to concentrate can tell me. But yeah, that just looked incredible. Like when I saw you call down a freaking demon, it has freaking fire chains. I was losing it. I told one of my brothers who hadn't been able to keep up to date, and he came over and he goes, "Oh, what happened? What happened?" There's like a little tear rolled down the side of his face as I'm telling him the amazing things that they're going to be able to do. Being able to summon an angel, also very awesome. Like there's just a lot of really really cool things, and I think in terms of from a mechanic perspective, just from what we've seen, it looks like they've delivered.
Yep.
The proof will be in the pudding, the devil's in the detail, all of that. But I'm delighted. I think they've delivered. From a witch doctor perspective, there's a couple of there's one little thing that's like a slight irk, with homunculus. They've put in something there, and the description pretty much says if you're going to have a pet-based witch doctor, you're going to be delighted because this one is going to be the item for you. You're going to be really excited about it. And I thought, oh yeah, maybe that will be really, really good once I find out what they're doing with pets. Now
Yeah.
I know what they're doing with pets. I don't quite get what they're doing. But with the exception of that, the rest of it all looks quite good. The only thing that is a little concern is if you're going to plug something as being the amaze balls type thing, then and it's not. I have a minor fear about just do they still get what people are looking for in items?
Yep.
But that is a minor issue. From what we wanted from legendaries, we can get optimal 6 stats off something else.
Mm-hmm.
Wicked cool stuff is what we want from legendaries, and I'm stoked. I'm delighted.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely really exciting. I was super excited when they came out. It was, it's really exciting seeing, things like fire chains, yes, we can do it back to them now. So good. So, any other comments? Did you guys have any other comments on them?
My favorite is probably gold skin, aka bot skin, with the 100% gold drop and mobs drop gold every time you hit them, or every time you get hit, or something like that, something ridiculous like that. I was like, wow, okay. You know what? I think this item is, they're actually putting it in the game as a bot trap. You know, people who wearing that game, they're going to look at their accounts for botting.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'm either damn angry or damn happy that they took our idea about fire boots that leave a fire trail wherever you walk. You guys might remember a couple of weeks ago when we talked about that.
Oh yeah, yep.
They took that idea, so I'm either very angry or very happy about that. Probably a little bit of both, but yeah. No royalties, but get a cool item that leaves fire where we walk. So
Yeah.
cool.
If they gave me one, I'd be totally happy with that.
This is one of those things where it's kind of like, I don't know why they didn't think of this sort of stuff before, or I don't know why they didn't put this sort of stuff in the game. It's just really fun stuff, and it seems very simple. So
Well, I mean, in terms of if you saw the YouTube video, they changed all the textures on everything, just to give them extra cool. And then, like for so many of these, they're actually going to somebody who does some programming had to go back and do some extra work, which is not what happened on any of the legendaries prior to now.
Mm-hmm.
They've got mechanics that don't exist anywhere else. I mean, like just like ZiggyD was saying on Gold Skin, you now have a function somewhere in the game. It's built in when you hit stuff, gold can drop. It's the Pokemon Meowth answer in Diablo 2, and it's that mechanic just didn't exist before. So now that you've got that, somebody had to go do some work. So I get, in one hand I get it not being there prior to now, in terms of it would have been more development time.
Yep.
On the flip side, I don't see how they could have not done it, and just deprioritized something else a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, did you have any favorites, Cyanide? Any standout legendaries?
Definitely the puzzle ring. Get ready for puzzle ring farming. And possibly in PvP. I'm not sure whether it will work if you use it in PvP just for farming goblins. So you get a friend to hit you and goblins pop out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
I'd have to assume it wouldn't work in PvP. That'd be crazy.
I mean, if PvP worked like in D2 where you can just flag anyone and just... But that's still a long time away, so...
Yeah.
We'll see.
That's definitely a cool one, though. Like, yeah, imagining being in the middle of a boss fight and then a goblin pops out. It's like, oh shit, go after the goblin, in the middle of fighting the butcher or something. Sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, on those, there was three that wasn't mentioned, that have been mentioned in other places, like on Reddit and on the forums and stuff. So yeah, the puzzle ring, which has the chance to spawn treasure goblin. The butcher's sickle now has a chance to cast, or you'll have a chance to cast the butcher's drag attack. So they didn't actually say specifically how that happens, but
it'll be weird to see how that works. Like, if you're using a melee, you're gonna stand there just hacking air until you draw them to you or something. I don't know. It seems like a weird ability to me.
Yeah, well, it just says gives players a chance to cast that butcher's skill. It doesn't say whether it's like an on-hit effect, which would seem useless for melee, because if you have to be next to them to hit them, then it's kind of useless. And
why would you want that as a ranged character?
Yeah.
I don't know, it's such a weird one.
Yeah. So then there's the Hellrack crossbow, which has a chance to jail enemies, which is pretty cool. And the Gidbin, chance to summon a fetish when fighting, which is awesome because it's a little throwback to D2 item. If you played D2, you would know what that dagger was. So it's cool to see them putting in stuff like that. So yeah,
and the beauty of that, I think, is even if you didn't love the bow for that damage, it will change how that whole class is played. If it procs enough, if you can get it to proc enough, then it will change how that's played, and that's I think the really cool takeaway from all of that. Yeah. Similarly, with they had the Tormentor, which is the staff that will charm enemies, and it's got a 31% chance to charm enemies on this one that they've shown. So who knows what the range on that would be, but a 31% chance to charm stuff. 1 in 3 hits. That nearly 1 in 3 hits. Yeah. That's pretty crazy. That's going to change how you play. It's going to be 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, or like shoot until charmed, shoot until charmed. It's got a pretty slow attack speed, but again, increase your attack speed on other items, pick your skills accordingly. You'll have a whole build around the enemies fighting themselves.
Yeah.
And that's very cool.
Yeah, and all of these legendaries are the type of items that, if it is like a class-specific item, then it's the type of thing where you get it, and then you're like, well, now I have to go roll a wizard so that I can use this item. And I think that's something that's lacking from the game as it is, and will now be in the game. But yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, like, are these legendaries enough to really keep people interested? So, what do you guys think? Do you think that there's anything else that needs to be done, or, in terms of the items, is this going to be enough? Because, I mean, legendaries don't drop that often. So, is that enough to keep people farming?
Can I start with this one?
Go for it.
Well, I think a lot of the people who have left the game and, still in the forums and troll about how much they hate the game and stuff like that, they were the people that were going to leave the game after 1 or 2 months anyway. I think my dog's going nuts on a beanbag over there. Sorry about that. And, but on their own, I think for legendaries, it's a really cool addition for people, and I think it definitely needs to be there. Like you said, the ability to focus some builds around legendaries is, I don't know, that's like a huge part of the game for me. Like, I love the idea of rolling another character so I can build, well, you're not going to roll other characters, but focusing build around a legendary and that sort of thing. But I don't think legendaries in themselves are hard for people to come back to the game that might have put it down for a while. But there's going to be a lot of other stuff in this patch, and it's definitely a step in the right direction for that one.
Yep. Okay. But in terms of items, I mean, I guess one thing that I thought of that I'd really like to see on more common items, as in, not legendary, so like rares and stuff, it'd be really nice to see, like, maybe some plus damage on rare items, plus skill damage on rare items. So I think I might have mentioned this before, but I mean, in Diablo 2, all of those class-specific items that had, plus to certain skills on it, I think that was one of the reasons that I was always hunting, or one of, at the beginning of the game anyway, before you get into some really specific builds, just finding like a staff for the wizard with, like +3 to whatever skill it is that you're mainly using in your build, was definitely a big thing. And it's not like they were super rare, like they weren't as rare as a legendary. It was just, every single item of that type would have plus skills on it almost, but it was more of a chance of having the right skills. So anyway, I'd like to, I guess, in comparison to Diablo 3, having like plus skill damage on items, I think is sort of like the closest thing to that, and it'd be really cool to have that sort of thing on rare items. But I mean, it's a lot different, so I don't know. What do you guys have thoughts on that at all?
I think for that particular stat, the bummer is that no matter your build, or I don't know of a build, it probably exists somewhere, but there's certainly very few builds where that would be one of your top 6 stats. You would always prefer to have something else. Now, if you've only got your 5 dream stats, it might be a great 6th. I think my Mojo, if I remember correctly, has like +9% to the poison dart, and that's not a bad 5th, but it's not great. I could definitely have something better, something I prefer more than that. Now but just to tie back to what you were saying before, like in terms of is this enough as well? It ties back to both those points actually, because this gives you something wacky to do. In Diablo 2, you go build your cookie cutter build, and you'd smash that for a while. Once you've beaten the whole game, you would go do something spec like your Warcry Barb, your your Enchantress, Sorceress, weird, crazy, wonderful builds.
Yep.
And they would always be suboptimal, but they would be different and fun. So now you could combine one or two of these, and even though they would definitely not be your ideal weapon, they would be, it's going to be something that's fun. So, if that fire chains one is not the best, you just build all your items around that wicked cool fire chains thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it gives you something wacky to do. So in that sense, I think it adds something to the game if you want to have that particular, to the longevity of the game. If you want to do something crazy, wonderful, like they've got the, what is it, Pox Folds.
Yeah.
I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. But, where you walk around with a fart cloud.
Yeah.
And it's like,
man, I've got a set of those too, and I'm so bummed that it's not going to have that. But yeah, anyway, go ahead.
Would you believe one of my brothers got 2 pre-patch, obviously, lidless walls, and they're the only 2 uniques that he's ever picked up. And anyways, but if I want to damn well walk around with a fart cloud around me, then I'm going to damn well walk around with a fart cloud around me. And I can build my whole damn build around fart clouds. So I'll, get my big stinker gargantuan, and, we'll be fart cloud buddies. And it'll be totally suboptimal, but it's something fun for me to do. And that's where it gets, builds the build diversity and it'll add some longevity. So that's not going to be the big thing for everyone. For the min-maxer, it's not going to bring them back. But for somebody who looks for something different, it'll bring them back. Or it might bring them back. Or keep them around for longer. Either way, I'm happy.
Yep.
On that note, when PvP comes out, if there's like low-level capped PvP tournaments and things like that, I think there'll be a lot of low-level legendaries that'll be really popular, and people build builds around stuff like that. I'm super keen for stuff like that, because especially in hardcore, it'd be really cool to get some sick legendary and do that sort of thing. Or I don't know.
That'd be fun.
Really cool to see that sort of thing.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, was there anything else you guys wanted to mention about the legendaries before we go forward and talk about?
I think ultimately it's just a short-term goal thing, just to keep people coming back for a while. Because I think looking at all the patch notes, personally, I feel this is what would make me come back for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, they really need to switch the end game goal in the end. If not, people will still continue to leave, and they'll get bored of these legendaries rather quickly. Short attention spans and all. So,
yep. Yeah.
You're right,
I don't think it will
Band-Aid
last.
fixes. It do seem like Band-Aid fixes, just temporary solutions. At least some of them are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
I think it's part of a picture. And nothing
definitely.
more. It's, it's just a small part.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, well, I definitely feel like, I want to get back in there and farm. It almost feels like farming before the patch is not worth doing. Because
It does feel a bit like
yeah, once the patch comes out, then we'll have a lot better chance of picking up some items. Or some cool items, rather.
Well, I'm very keen for the Magic Find blog, because in terms of, if I was not playing the game, if this would, for this to bring me back, I'd have to actually be going to get it.
Yep.
I've only found one legendary so far. I haven't played that much. I don't play with the optimal Magic Find at all times. But I've found one legendary, and that's a bummer. So, and the tragic part of it was I gave it to a friend to borrow, and he got hacked the following day. So my one legendary doesn't even exist anymore. But if I'm not going to find them, I don't care how good they are. or if I'm just going to have to, grind the auction house and get, 10,000 gold at a time and eventually try to save up the 200 million to get one, then again, I'm not super excited about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Cool. All right, that's a good point. Well, I guess we can jump on to some class changes now. So, who wants to go first?
You start with the barb first, and then we'll just go in the order that they're on here.
Okay, fine. We'll do it that way.
No, you don't want to do the barb. I'll help you with the barb, man. I'll help you.
Okay, so firstly, before we get into class changes, I just want to say, well, I think that one of the main problems that they are having is that there's a lot of skills that just aren't used. They're just not used because they're not very strong. They're just not worth
Especially
using.
the Fury spenders, right?
Yeah, so I mean, and this is for a lot of, like, I wouldn't say all classes, but most classes have, like, their resource dumping abilities that are, like, there's some that are good, but there's a lot that are just not worth the amount of resource that it costs to cast them. So, yeah, with that, so going on to the Barbarian, there's really sort of two sections. So there's the Fury Generators and Fury Spenders, and something that it seems like they're finding people are not using builds where they're optimizing Fury Generation and then dumping it with Fury Spenders. They're just doing, like, Vengeance builds, basically. So,
Sorry, Huega, I might just interrupt you just
Yeah.
for one quick sec. Just for those people that haven't been following it so closely, with each of these blog posts, we've had preceding blog posts as well, which pretty much just gave us an idea of what Blizzard wanted to do, and really their key driver was build diversity.
Yeah.
And both across skills and also across runes as well.
Yeah.
And then there was it wasn't so much a balance patch per se. Anyway, I just wanted to chuck that out there, just so that
Yep.
people understand where they're coming from,
Yep.
because it's not meant to be an overall buff or an overall nerf. It's meant to be pulling out those underutilized skills like you were getting at there, and generally getting them used a bit more.
Yep. Yeah, so, sorry, I was just laughing at Ziggy's dog back there for a second. Yeah, so I think just another thing to add to that is that I think one of the things that they don't want to happen is to have these really awesome skills that look awesome and feel awesome at level 6, and then you get to level 60 and they do crappy damage, and they're not worth using. So, I mean, a good example, I guess, is like, the Monk's Wave of Light. Big bell comes down, it makes a massive loud sound, doesn't do much damage, costs heaps and heaps of spirit, and it makes it not usable. And it's bad for people who really want to use that skill, because it just means that they can't really use it, So, yeah, anyway, getting back to what we're talking about. So the Barb, for Fury Generators, Frenzy is pretty much the most popular Fury Generator, as they said in the blog. And we'll put the links just in case anyone can't find Diablo3.com. We'll put the links in the comments, or not comments, in the description.
You're so mean.
We got it.
They want to. So they're giving the other Fury Generators a bit of a boost. Bash is getting an increase to the Fury generated, as well as a small damage increase. So I think they really want Bash to be the most efficient Fury builder. And Cleave is also getting a damage buff to 140% from 120%. So that, when you're doing damage to multiple targets, it's going to be the clear best skill to choose. So yeah, so they're just trying to even it up, making those a bit more useful. And then so we get to the Fury Spenders. Hammering the Ancients is getting a pretty big damage buff So they're increasing the base damage, and they're almost doubling the damage on the Rolling Thunder rune, which is the one that shoots the big long, thing out and hits the other people that you want to kill. So
That sounds so wrong.
yes, let's not go there.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of that change on that skill because I love that skill. I want to use it at high levels. It's such an awesome looking skill. It's probably one of the coolest skills in the game to look at. Everything dies in front of you. Well, everything doesn't die in front of you at the moment, but hopefully after the patch it will. So.
Yeah, that's another good example of a skill that, it looks really powerful, it feels powerful, you use it, and it's just not powerful. Seismic Slam and a few of its runes are also receiving a big boost in damage. And Rend, probably the biggest buff. It's received a huge damage increase with its base damage going from 210% over 3 seconds to 700% over 5 seconds. So that's previously, well, at the moment it's 70% per second, and it's going up to 140% per second. So it's basically doubling in damage and lasting for longer, which is awesome. They're also, obviously they're increasing some of the rune damage as well, but it's mostly the base damage that's going up with Rend, which is cool because I really like Rend. I like damage over time. It works for you while you're doing other things. So what do you guys think of Yeah, sorry.
I'll give my 2 cents on Rend first, because that's specifically the big problem with Rend is that you don't want to take time out of doing whatever else you're doing to cast Rend. Like having a sick damage over time is really, really good, but having to take time every 3 seconds to cast Rend is just takes away too much damage. It's not worth it. So increasing the damage, but also increasing the time. Increasing the time might not sound like a good thing, but it's actually making you cast it less, which is heaps better. So that's a pretty cool change. Hopefully it will be quite useful in practice afterwards.
Yep. Did anyone else have any comments about the barbarian changes?
They didn't mention Call of the Ancients, and that made me sad a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's referenced in the alleged data mines info elsewhere. That's not in this block, but I really would have loved to just seen them drop that in the bottom line as a PS or something.
Yeah.
Because even though it's not part of the other stuff, like you call back the freaking Ancients from Diablo 2, it should be something that's really cool.
Yeah.
And it just isn't, and that's really disappointing in the barb skill set.
Yeah, it's not in the unofficial patch notes that we have here, so it doesn't look like it's receiving any changes. But yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe they'll change it in the future. Maybe it gets used more than you think. Don't know.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time we in our popular circles, we don't hear about a skill ever being used. Maybe because we talk to a lot of min-maxers and stuff like that. But maybe in practice it is actually used a lot.
Yeah,
so I think that might happen sometimes more than we think.
Definitely a fun skill. It's a really good oh shit button. Oh shit! I need 3 more people to help.
No, I don't think it ever warrants actually making it on a skill bar.
Yeah, interesting. I haven't
and,
played it enough to really.
I personally think it's bad, but maybe it has some utility skills or something. Utility abilities.
I'm pretty firm in my opinion that it's only really used by people that are just desperate to use it. Just has the chat offered anything on how dumb I might be? No, not in this particular instance. Anyways, we'll see. That might change over time. And I understand it not being a core focus for what they're doing, because they've tried to address a whole class of stuff like generators and things like that, and spenders.
Yep. Cool.
So before we move on to Demon Hunters, Bensky in the chat just reminded me of something we missed when we were talking about uniques. Was the set changes and stuff, and the implications and the fun that's been happening with the Natalia's set.
Yep.
I the auction house. I think Pat's the financial whiz, so I think he can give us a lowdown on what's been happening with the prices and things like that. I think it's like really, really cool, but
Well, it's fun.
it's fun.
Oh, I find it fun.
I do too.
So, all right. Well, feel free to jump in, guys. But essentially, there's stuff that people have been data mining out of the client, taking the code that's in the existing client, and they've been using that to find what Blizzard put in there ahead of the official final patch, and they're using that data to generate essentially what a patch notes. They're playing spot the difference, and in that awesome fun game that must be of spot the difference, they saw that what's going to be happening with the sets, and this is all unconfirmed, complete speculation. I don't know who's doing the data mining. They might be playing the whole market for all I know.
Yeah.
But according to them, the old sets, and this is something that was announced by Blizz, the old sets will not interact with the new sets. So the if you had old Natalia's set, that was called what, Natalia's Wrath, and then the new Natalia's set is called Natalia's I can't remember off the top of my head, but whatever its name is, Natalia's Hot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got if you've got the weapon from Natalia's Wrath, you can't use that to combine with a ring in Natalia's Hot and get the 2 set item bonus. So, okay, that's fine. That all makes sense. Generally speaking, nobody cares because everything's just being buffed, right? Mm-hmm. So why would we care about the old set? Well, Natalia's is a little bit unique because it had that unintended massive buff in 1.0.3 where you could now get this the 4 stat bonus, the 4 item bonus, which is +2 discipline per second. Yeah, I got that right. Which is amazing. It's really cool, and it's a totally game-changing ability for those demon hunters to use. They can now use awesome amounts of Volt and Smoke Screen, and it's just totally changes how that class can be played. So that is so powerful, and more than offsets the fact that each set item is quite crappy in its own right. Even the 3 set bonus is quite crappy. Mm-hmm. It's only once you hit that 4 set bonus. So now, the new Natalia set will not have anything like that. According to these data miners, it won't. It's going to be about similar to the, other class sets. And it's going to be, on average, the class sets are going to be getting an improvement. But for Natalia's, it's a massive downgrade. And there's nothing that we've seen that's going to change the entire way that class is played and give that power that you're able to get out of a current Natalia set. Mm-hmm. What does all of this mean? All of this means is that a Natalia's now will not be available for purchase. Finding you cannot get a Natalia's that's pre 1.0.4 after that patch goes live.
Unless people want to sell it for like real cash for $1,000 or something.
Unless you buy it somewhere, you can't drop it. It will never drop. Now these items aren't really going to be leaving the game in a hurry, but they will slowly be working their way out of the game as people quit. They leave them in inventories, dumb people salvage them, stuff like that. They will slowly leave the system. They will become increasingly more scarce, and they're going to get over time quite scarce. And this happened in Diablo 2. There was pre 1.08 items that were immensely valuable and just couldn't be replaced. So the Natalia set, unlike every other item in Diablo, will be becoming increasingly scarce, harder to find, and you actually give a damn because it's actually good. All the other sets, they will have the same issue. All the legendaries have the same issue, but nobody gives a damn. It's only this Natalia set where people are super excited. So that data mine information came out, and what happened? The auction house exploded a lot. So things that were just like the weapon is deemed rubbish, and you wouldn't normally even use the weapon to get the 4 set bonus. There's 5 items in the set. It's only the 4 item bonus that you need, and the weapon straight up sucks. And your weapon is your most important item. So the weapon has always been useless. It's less than 500 DPS usually, or definitely less than 600 DPS, and that was going for over a pop when it used to be less than 300,000. So a good mark, I think, might be a bargain at $250. The mark is the ring, and that's always been the most valuable out of them. So it's going crazy. I got in like 5 hours after the data mining stuff came out, and within a few hours, all my stuff that I'd picked up had doubled, and I only had like $40 free in the auction house or something, and I had to convert it all to gold and then start buying in gold because it was more efficient at the time. And I had to send it back and buy a couple of things in US dollars. But yeah, so I only picked up about 5 items or so, and I was just trying to focus on the best quality over any bit of crap, because that'll be, again, the real trick will be a good X, a good Y, and that'll be what's really hard to get. So if you're interested in taking a bit of a punt, they may well still be undervalued. I would dodge the weapon, but all of the other items could potentially explode in value over time. But you could definitely do a bit of a play for buy them now, wait till just before the patch comes out or just after the patch comes out, and do a resale then. Or you can just sit on them and let them accrue like Swiss people and gold, and 20 years time you can offload them for all of the money.
Cool. Okay. Let's.
So you're saying avoid the crossbow?
I would say avoid the crossbow, because the only way I see people actually wanting the crossbow down the track is when they need the 4-step bonus and they just have no hope of ever being able to afford to get the.
Here's the funny thing. Because the crossbow is one-handed, so it can work as a stat stick.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's totally true. That's totally true.
Like offset it with another good one-hander. You could possibly do that.
Yeah.
And that's probably what you'll see happening in a couple of years' time or something.
Because I just bought one for 300k. just in case, you never know.
Well, actually, when I was doing it, they were trading at. You couldn't get one for over a mil. Oh, sorry, under a mil. You couldn't get a crossbow at all for under a mil. So obviously the hype came out of the crossbow. The other ones have come really spiked really quickly. They came down a little bit, and they're still a lot higher than what they were 2 days ago. On average about 3 times higher or so, I think. And for the good ones are far more, actually.
I don't think the mark's ever going to come down.
Yeah, so yeah, of course, if they get to a point where they're just so cheap, then of course the value proposition changes and they're worth money.
Cool. Okay, well, one thing before we go to the wizard changes. Cyanide, did you have any opinions on the barbarian changes?
I think right now, because
So I'll be back. Keep going.
The most effective way to play a barb, really cheap and effective for farming Act 1 or Act 2, is actually still the whirlwind barb. So I don't think it's going to change much, to be honest.
Yep.
Because people want to farm efficiently, not farm fun.
Yep.
I mean, if you wanted fun, you just do Act 1 and come up with stupid builds. But yeah,
well, I think
after time, people will just go for efficiency over fun.
Yep. Well, it looks like, according to these unofficial, unconfirmed patch notes, they're actually buffing damage of Whirlwind as well. So, yeah, that's kind of weird, actually. If that's the most popular build, it kind of goes against everything that they were saying. But I guess we'll see what happens. It's going from... I'll tell you the numbers. Where is it? It's going from 110 weapon damage to 145 weapon damage. So it's not huge, but it's pretty significant.
Still buff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty decent for like such a quick moving AoE ability. And a lot of people are using it for farming and stuff like that, since it could just tear through trash mobs without having to stop.
Yep. Cool. All right, let's go on to the wizard because otherwise we're going to be here like all night.
Let's do it.
So for the wizard, one of the main skills they looked at was Hydra. Apparently I can't remember what it's called now, but one of the Hydras is being used the most, and the others are basically not being used. So they're increasing the range of the Frost Hydra. It's been more than doubled, and they've given it a slight increase of damage. They've also changed the cone a little bit. It's a lot longer now, so that should be more effective at actually snaring enemies, which is what it's meant to do.
Yep.
They are increasing the damage of Arcane and Mammoth Hydra by more than twice. So yeah, it's more than doubled, which is pretty big. The numbers don't look that big because the numbers are quite small, but they fire like 3 shots at once, so it turns out to be quite a lot.
And it's external to your character as well. Like, you can keep doing your main ability at the same time, don't forget.
Passive damage. Yeah.
Passive damage.
Lightning Hydra damage has been almost doubled, so not quite as much as the others, but it's pretty.
It's meant to be a big single target. Hey.
Yeah. So they're buffing a lot of the wizards, or quite a few of the wizards' utility skills, like the mirror skin rune for diamond skin. So it now is reflecting 100% of damage that it absorbs rather than 50%, which, I mean, I don't know how useful that will be, but it sounds like quite a big buff. So I guess it will depend on how people can incorporate that into a build. There's also a few other things. So there's a pretty significant buff to meteor damage and some of its runes. Arcane Torrent is now only costing 16 arcane power, down from 20, and it's doing more damage, which is cool because that's another skill that I really like personally, but doesn't really get used because it just doesn't do that much damage compared to how much arcane power it costs. And there's been a big damage increase for the Arcane Destruction rune for Archon, so it now does 1600% damage to all enemies within 15 yards, which is up from 450, so that's a huge damage increase. It's more than triple.
That's like a nuclear bomb now. It just clears out everything on the screen.
Yeah,
well, it's like, can't use it very often.
I guess, I mean, not having like a level 60 wizard, I couldn't say how effective that's going to be, but I mean, I don't know if anyone actually uses that rune at the moment, but that's such a big damage increase, it's hard to imagine not being really useful. So, yes. Anyone have any particular notes on the wizard? Anything?
It's worth noting that none of us really play wizard that much. I've played around with a wizard a bit, but I don't think you guys have much of wizard experience, do you?
I don't know.
No.
For me, the wizard would have to be, unfortunately, one of the ones I know the least about. Although, I did think it was interesting that they were saying that they wanted to do more with Mammoth Hydra, because it did kind of just didn't feel where they wanted it to be. So I thought that was cool. I'll be interested to see what they come up with there. They just couldn't come up with something that they felt would do it in time.
Yep.
I also like Arcane Torrent's actually a little bit interesting in one respect, because from a wizard perspective, they can do a lot to contribute to a party, like kill everything or use C skills. But with the exception of Time Warp, Arcane Torrent's like one of the only other skills that can actually help other people deal damage themselves, because it has one which has a rune that will allow them to allow other people to deal additional arcane damage once that target's been hit with Arcane Torrent. So that's pretty cool. I don't ever actually see that really getting used, but I'd like to see it get used one day, especially if party play gets encouraged further still.
Yep.
The other thing that was interesting in the post was with what they did with the energy twister and having its proc coefficient reduced. That might lend itself or be a predictor of them mucking about with other proc coefficients as well. Because, even though they haven't discussed in any of the other blog posts, that could change quite a bit. And that, for some builds, is like the whole basis of their build, like with the whirlwind barbs, with their little whirlwind things, and with the energy twisters, it's really, really important. There's also a Witch Doctor build that's built around having CC on all of your items, and then you get the pets that have little clouds or little bits of fire, and that's supposed to proc quite regularly as well. So you get a lot of stun going. There's whole builds that focus on those proc coefficients, and if they're going to be changing a lot of those, then what you thought might work today might not work tomorrow, or might not work when this patch comes out.
Yep. Cool.
Intrepid had a question, which I'm not sure if you fully answered there. Patton was that she asked, "Can you explain the builds that are affected by the proc coefficient?"
Oh, geez, I wish I knew them all.
Just like a general idea.
But so the whirlwind barb build, where you have all the whirlwinds that come off it, each of those whirlwinds apparently have a reasonably high proc coefficient, and I know that is one of the major ones. And then the wizard one is the other one that as I understand it, is the most popular. Apart from that,
any Witch Doctor ones?
yeah, well, the Witch Doctor one I mentioned, where you have all your all the CC and all your gear, and you should be effectively stunning everyone all the time, which actually should carry over and be quite good post patch, especially because it works well with Spider Queen. Spider Queen's the only spider that actually procs stuff. The little guys that jump around, they don't proc anything. I can't think of anything else. Sinai, can you think of anything else that relies on those sorts of different procs?
I think for the main reason they explained for the changes in coefficient procs was legendary proc rates. That was why they brought the energy twister one down. So it kind of makes me think that if the energy twister one was that high, was the other classes like coefficient rates lower than that?
Well, it's I mean, where it was at 0.25, like it's, you got to keep in mind that they had its proc coefficient halved from 0.25 to 0.125, but you got to keep in mind, like, how many things are this thing, how many opportunities for that proc to trigger is the skill setting off. So like for the monk, for example, I know they've got that where you go, help me out here, but they've got the thing that spins around you.
Yep, sweeping wind.
Thank you. I don't know what the proc coefficient is on that, but I think that's reasonably decent. I know for the Witch Doctor ones that I was discussing before, they've got a proc coefficient of 1, but they don't have as many, or they've got a relatively high number of opportunities to trigger. It hasn't been an issue to date for Witch Doctors because, well, one, that they aren't played that much, and pets have just sucked so hard. That was like the only thing that actually could kind of make pets viable. I wouldn't be surprised if they kick that one in the head along with the buff. I can't think of anything else for the Demon Hunter, just because she doesn't generally have anything that really works like that I can think of.
I think it's
some of the AoEs might, but yeah, I haven't really heard of any major builds that rely on that sort of stuff.
It's really like those things, like for Meteor, for example, it hits the ground proc and then it burns for a time, and then, it's got little procs that will tick over time. And yeah, Demon Hunter's got a few things that are like that, but I can't think of anything that's critical.
Alright.
Okay.
Shall we move on
Let's-
to the
let's-
Demon Hunter then?
yes.
Because I'm prepped and ready to go.
Yeah, cool. I've got to run away again for a sec.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
No worries.
He's a busy daddy. Alright. Okay, so moving on to ZiggyD's Demon Hunter summary. We have the only passive that's getting changed in the patch is Brooding, which previously required 3 seconds of not taking any damage, and then you start healing 1%. So it's kind of like, I thought it was interesting, but it never really got used. Most people were going Glass Cannon; they never really used it, that sort of thing. So now it doesn't require that you don't take any damage. It's just a flat 1% heal per second all of the time. So that's like a pretty big regen skill. I think it's an uninteresting skill now. Like the fact that it's just a flat heal is, I find personally boring. But if it does what I think it might do and encourage some more tanky Demon Hunter builds, especially like I've been playing around with some like melee Demon Hunter builds, it'd be really cool to see people using that for those sorts of builds. And I think that might actually happen because 1% regen could be pretty good with lots of life and things like that. Stacks and fight and things like that. So that's interesting.
Yep.
Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I know one thing that really annoys me about my Demon Hunter is that, there's no like health regen, or I don't have any health regen. So I think I'm just used to playing a monk where there's got so much health regen that you never really need to worry too much about picking up orbs after fights and stuff like that. But on my Demon Hunter, it's like you have a fight and then you go into the next fight and you're like, hang on, I'm still at half health. Why didn't my health recharge? So I think having that kind of health regen is definitely a cool thing.
Yeah, that's like a big convenience thing, but I hope that it has more utility beyond convenience, like that it actually makes a big difference in combat. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if it's enough. I don't know if 1% will scale enough. It'll depend on how people build their characters, but hopefully it encourages a few more people to go tanky Demon Hunters. So we'll see. Okay, so the next thing is multi-shot is having its hatred reduced by. I think I can quickly find the actual amount here. Probably should have had that one written out. Down to 30 from 40. So and obviously Fire at Will's getting reduced as well. It's going down to 15 hatred from 20 hatred. So that's a pretty big reduction, but it's still a pretty big hatred cost for the ability. It's having a little bit of a damage buff as well, but hopefully that sees more use as a spammy, clear out trash mobs build skill and things like that. I'm not too sure if that'll be enough of a buff for it. I don't know. I like the skill. Hopefully, I love the idea. It's just like a shotgun, but hopefully, hopefully it's actually a big enough increase. I don't know. We'll see.
Yep.
Any thoughts on multi-shot?
I like multi-shot too, but we'll have to just see how it goes.
Yeah. All right, I'll move on quickly because Pat's in a bit of a rush with the bub. So.
It's alright. I'll just have my segment next. That's all.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So, all together we have Volt's Trail of Cinders rune, Caltrops with Jagged Spikes, Smokescreen with gas, and Rain of Vengeance, all Demon Hunter's big AoE skills, which pretty much none of those are ever used. Are getting huge, massive, big DPS buffs. So, like, just for some examples here, we've got Caltrops with Jagged Spikes is going from 45% worth damage to 270%, and my personal favorite, Rain of Vengeance, is going from 75% to 715%. So that's quite buff. Yeah. And I actually think some of these are going to have a pretty big role to play in PvP, especially. Mainly Volt's Trail of Cinders, because Volt's really good, obviously, kiting ability. And if you're faced up against a melee, like a barb or something, and they're having to chase you down as you're vaulting, they actually can't chase you if you're vaulting with Trail of Cinders with that much damage. So being able to vault away and having to make them, not be able to chase you, have to duck around, you're like, no barb's ever going to get to you. So that's I think that's really cool.
Vault and Firewalkers.
Yeah.
Like double the damage.
I wonder.
That's pretty.
That's a good point, actually. I wonder if the Firewalker damage is going to be on when you're vaulting, so it's like a double whammy of like fire damage. That could be pretty intense.
and pops foes at the same time. So you fuck up following you with fire.
We don't know we don't know for sure if smokescreen actually makes you invisible in the final version of PvP as well, but they're gonna know where you're going if you've got those firewalkers on, aren't they?
Good point.
As for the rest of those, for the smoke screen choking gas, it's getting a huge damage buff, but I really don't think people are going to use it because you still can't pass up either the movement speed for PvP or the increased rate for just avoiding an attack. I don't think choking gas will be used despite the buff, but maybe it will. It's still a nice big
maybe
buff.
Someone will find somewhere to fit it into some wacky build.
Rain of Vengeance I think is interesting because I've been tinkering around with playing with Rain of Vengeance with a zero hatred build, and I think you can get the passive that increases your move speed when you have zero hatred. I think that could work well for PvP. Maybe people using that as their big AoE spell, and then just using Fury hatred generators, and having their increased move speed, because move speed is a pretty big deal in PvP. So it could be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So the rest of the abilities, except for Hungering Arrow, are getting basic small to medium damage buffs, just to bring them in line with each other. The idea is to make some things competitive with Hungering Arrow. So no buffs for Hungering Arrow because it's been determined it's already quite good. So yeah, that's about it for that one. Any thoughts? Any final thoughts?
Nothing in particular. No. Cool. Alright, shall we move on to the Witch Doctor?
Yep. One thing. Sorry. This is the communication tool, so I've got a cranky baby and a sick wife, so that creates difficulties for podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
However, my reaction to the patch preview for Witch Doctor was a slow clap. I was very, very, very stoked. Jesus Christ. Alright. It's not even my goddamn phone. Oh, there you go. That's a Nokia, it'll be alright. Anyways, so the pets was the changes to pets look amazing, and for anyone who isn't familiar with Witch Doctor's, pets were just dreadful, absolutely dreadful. As soon as you hit Inferno, your dogs just die from the first pack of zombies. That they'll just annihilate them. There's nothing you can do. There's not much you can do. They've always benefited from armor and resistance, but they've never benefited from vitality. Or whatever your life happens to be. So they've gone and they went through some different test runs, and in the end they're going to give you they have a base value of life plus your life plus a scaling amount, and then you and then after that the damage gets mitigated by armor and mitigated by resistance. So the intention and what they claim is going to be the case is that they'll be able to handle themselves right through Act 3 and 4. If you're playing a glass cannon type build, they will take a few hits. If you're playing more of if you're focusing on keeping them alive, then you're not going to have a problem keeping them alive. And there's so many skills in the Witch Doctor arsenal that allow you to build your whole build around pets, and they were all skills that were just totally useless pre-patch. So that is huge. That is amazing.
Yep.
And it's really exciting. It's also don't want to get too big into the data mining stuff, but it looks like what they've done in terms of just changing some of the other numbers on some of the other skills. If all of that works out to be true, that should be quite good. Like Circle of Life is one of the skills that allows you to have a new zombie dog spawn from a monster that you've killed.
Yep.
And if they increase the percentage chance of that happening, like they theoretically will be, that would be huge, because it's currently at 5%, which is kind of really useless. The other big thing for the Witch Doctors, though, is that they've changed Vision Quest completely. So Vision Quest was a skill that if you had 4 skills on cooldown, you got a 300% mana regen bonus. And for classes that aren't witch doctors, mana recovers so slowly. It's really, really frustrating to deal with. And the only way you could really get to spend your mana the way you wanted to spend your mana was with Vision Quest, having a lot of stuff on cooldown. And you needed to build your stuff around the cooldown. So it was really, really difficult to play. And it was, which is fine, I'm all for difficult to play, but it was also really frustrating to play because you might want to, an example they use is Big Bad Voodoo, which is one of your top level skills, and you want your Vision Quest to stay active, so you need it to be on cooldown. So you might have a fight that's not a big fight, but it's one that you actually need a bit more mana to be able to handle. You got to pop down your Big Bad Voodoo so you can get those extra waves of zombie bears off. And it was pretty much focused a lot around zombie bears or the acid cloud, I think it was as well. They're the main ones. I was using zombie bears for quite a bit.
Yep.
So they've nerfed that completely, and it's a significant nerf, but it doesn't revolve around cooldowns at all now. It doesn't relate to cooldowns at all. Vision Quest will give an increase in mana regeneration of 30%. Which is 30% of your total mana as opposed to 300% of the existing rate. And then it'll do that for 5 seconds after dealing damage with Firebomb, Corpse Spiders, Poison Dart, or Plague of Toads, which pretty much, at least one of those is going to be a staple in almost any build. So it should be not hard to keep that going all the time. Especially you could have like a Spider Queen or something like that, which runs around constantly proccing, constantly keeping it going because they always deal a little bit of damage. Mm-hmm. So that's had the snot nerfed out of it. It doesn't mean it's useless. Now that you've got pets going, you've got fancy ways of doing crowd control as well that revolve around pre-spent mana, because pets you can summon in town, spend the mana then, and then you've got something that's working for you for mana you spent 2 minutes ago. So you've already got some crowd control working for you in a mana free sense as you're fighting along. So that's, as a result, you aren't quite as mana intensive as you used to be, and with some of the other buffs that are supposedly happening, you should be getting more damage out of some of those other skills like using Corpse Spiders. But at the end of the day, at the highest levels, for people who had high levels of mana regen and were really maximizing that burst damage they were getting out of zombie bears, this is quite a nerf. And apart from the wizard, this is the only other nerf that they've actually made quite clear is going to happen in 1.0.4, which is, a lot of people say it's a big bummer because the witch doctor was so neglected. I totally get that, and I'd be really disappointed if I was one of those people. I am not one of those people, but the one thing that I really love is that it was a really unfun way to play. It was really, really just annoying. You'd either have all the mana in the world or no mana, and you need to struggle to fight white mobs so that as soon as you hit a blue mob, you've got all your stuff on, all your cooldowns triggered, and then you just annihilate it. So the burst damage was great, but very, very unfun comparatively. So overall, big fat thumbs up, massive thumbs up for pets. Still a solid thumbs up for the Vision Quest change is what I'm gonna call it. And they've also given witch doctors something that's totally unskill related, which is just a straight up buff to mana regeneration. So if you weren't using Vision Quest, then this patch is going to be incredibly amazing. Right now, I'm spending most of my time just comfortably, lazily farming Act 1. I'm probably going to be farming Act 2 post-patch.
Nice.
Okay, that's an interesting point. Cool. Well, that sounds fun.
Nice. If I have to run away on short notice from now, I may not come back. Just so you know. So thanks for that, guy.
No worries.
No worries, Pat. We love having you on. Witch Doctor sounds incredibly complex, man. It's too much for me. I'm just going to shoot arrows at things.
Cool. All right. Should we jump into monk changes? Sino, do you want to give us your lowdown on the monk?
So for the block mentioned their big issue was spirit spenders, which is your spammable skills other than mantras, which all monks do. So they started thinking that they needed a big damage increase for stuff like seven-sided strike or wave of light. And to be honest, I think the biggest increase would be from seven-sided strike. I think at 777% weapon damage, and they brought it up to 1,777.
Yep.
Seems pretty massive.
Yeah.
It used to be one of those skills that I loved to use because it was damage and immunity to damage for a while.
Yeah.
But I got into a lot of problems because when stuff like Plague and Molten walked over where you last fired your skill, you would just end up being there again.
Yep.
And that wasn't very fun.
Yep.
But yeah, their overall philosophy is just to buff unused skills. I don't think it will improve popularity because when you reach Inferno Act 3 and Act 4, you still use 3 out of your 4 defensive skills, no matter what.
Yep.
But I think they recognize that and they kind of nerfed Inferno again.
Yep. Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm a bit split on that because I don't want them to nerf Inferno to make it that easy. But at the same time, I want them to give us the chance to gear up such that we will outgear the content easier than them making it the content easier for us. You get what I mean? So we improve our character, not them making Inferno easier.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And
What do you
I think
think about Exploding Palm? Plus?
Exploding Palm, yeah, I like where they are going with particularly with the what do you call it? The graphics, because I could never tell what I hit with Exploding Palm, except when I use. I think Flash is weak where there's a big hand on the mob. Other than that, the other runes don't show which you actually hit, so I think that's a good thing. And the damage increase is actually really, really good because I might actually switch it out because I currently use Blinding Flash to increase my DPS, but I might switch it out for Exploding Palm or Seven-Sided Strike because of the damage increase. But we'll have to see how much of a change that is from current damage numbers.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been changed from 3 seconds. The bleed is being changed from 3 seconds to 9, or whatever is the damage over time, which is it's pretty big increase in time. Like, which as I was saying earlier is good because you don't have to use those sorts of things as much. But 9 seconds to be fighting a mob is, I don't know, it depends on the type of mob. It'd be good against elites and stuff, I guess, but wouldn't be much useful against anything else.
Yep. Yeah.
Mainly against elites because if you were to for 3 seconds you would just be spamming Flash is weak and it's not really good because of the damage. So you'll be wasting a lot of spirit instead of stuff like Serenity just in case you need it, and then you find out that shit, I don't have spirit. And yeah, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what it's like. I used to use Seven-Sided Strike a lot, and it got pushed off my bar for Blinding Flash because that increase in damage is just so good, and the blind as well. You know, it's almost the same as the immunity you get with Seven-Sided Strike because most of the enemies aren't hitting you, and it gives you a lot more damage when you're using Sweeping Wind. So in the end, yeah, the damage just wasn't that high, but I really did like the single target. Like when there's one target around and use Seven-Sided Strike, it was quite a lot of damage. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much more it actually is, but I'm excited about it. It's going to be cool. And I'm excited about Wave of Light too, because that was one of my favorite skills. I love Wave of Light. It's really good for kiting. It's because you don't have to be next to them. It knocks them back, and you don't have to be next to them, unlike the kick skill. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about the changes for Monk. Excited to use some different skills.
I like Tempest Rush, where they are gonna buff the damage, because I actually have a build around Tempest Rush, where I just stack Spirit Regen and just go around.
Is that like
Tempest Rush?
You can use it infinitely? Is that one?
Pretty close. Yeah, pretty close to infinite.
It's just like it was such a useless, wacky build. It'd be cool if that was actually useful.
It's for Act 1, so I use it for Act 1. But
cool.
Other than that, I'm just sad that they didn't improve more passives, but that is still, I mean, from the unofficial patch notes, it's only Exalted Soul where they added Spirit Regen by 1 per second, and Guardian's Path, where they increased Spirit Regen by 35% up from 25% while using two-handed weapons.
Yep.
That's cool. But stuff like that needs to be in the game.
Yep.
I love that you can like find little quirks in the game that let you do something stupid like that. Just being able to use the skill infinitely.
I'm still hoping for more changes, because even for the data mine wizard patch notes, they didn't include the energy twister coefficient. So I think that they might have left some stuff up.
Yeah, it's possible that some stuff hasn't been put in the client yet, so it wasn't able to be data mined. So we're sort of filling in the gaps until we get the official notes and stuff like that.
Yeah. Cool.
So I think, does that bring us to Paragon levels? Because I'm keen to talk about that.
Yeah, that's pretty much the last thing on my list here.
Sounds good.
Sweet.
Yes, so...
Take them away, toys?
Yeah, you can, if you want to take it away, you can.
All right, sure. So I made a bit of a video and stuff like that. There was some information data mined on what is essentially called Paragon levels, and if you have been listening to general conversations and things like that, heaps of people were suggesting something like prestige levels after you reach level 60 to add some sort of end game grind. Because personally, myself and I'm sure many other people dislike the fact that you reach a max level so quickly, and that I don't like the gear grind as well. I like there to be the gear grind as well as being the XP grind, stuff like that. So essentially, this prestige level thing has been added in, and in the form of the paragon levels. So from level 60 onwards, it seems to cap out at 100. I'm not sure if that was explicitly stated in here. I think it's going to cap out at 100. But basically, every time you gain a level, you get an amount of magic and gold find bonus, which is a passive on your character. Now, it doesn't say how much exactly, but we can only assume it's going to be pretty small, so something like between 1 and 5%. I'm thinking like 1% per level, and then maybe 5% every 10 levels or something like that. But, we're theory crafting off unofficial data here, so... there's a new Paragon experience bar which gets placed over the existing experience bar, and it starts leveling up. It's blue, so that's pretty cool. And here's one that Pat will like, is the fact that you get portraits for your Paragon levels, so you can unlock all those fellas. Yeah. So not too much information come out about it, so we're really just theory crafting on the structure of it, but the actual I guess the strings of code that were found were, Paragon Portrait unlocked at level up, Paragon level. You are now earning Paragon experience once you reach level 60, and each Paragon level you gain grants a gold and magic find bonus. So that's the only official stuff we noticed. But there was also a picture of the portrait pieces, I guess, the elements of the portraits, or we can assume are the portraits, on Diablo fans. So you guys can check that out. I'll post a link in the chat and that sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about paragon levels? Is it an end game? Is it an end game? That's the big question. The $1 million question.
So I'd say it does. It ticks one of the boxes definitely, which is just about more uh, more rewards. Always having a positive experience every time you play. I had a farming run I did very early in the morning this morning. I died. It was a very, very short run. I died a couple of times. I probably lost money as a result of that run. If I had Paragon levels, I would feel good about it. I would be like, yeah, who needs the gold? I've earned a little bit of experience.
Yep.
So you always walk away with a positive feeling. That's really great for gameplay. That's really good game design.
Yep.
So it definitely ticks that box. Is it new content? Well, obviously not.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people are talking about, that they just, it's content that they're after. So yeah, if that's your issue, then yeah, it's I'm sure it's helped your opinion of the game, but it hasn't solved the problem. But it's hard to say because it might be too late. For a lot of people, it might be too late because they've had that negative feeling of going to grind, picking up stuff, trying to sell it on the auction house, and the whole reward system is just so convoluted. And the payoff is when you actually sell something via auction, which you're never actually watching anyways.
Yep.
It's just you log back in next, you've sold a few things, or you went back and checked after a run, you've sold a few things. The rewards been so far from the gameplay for so long that I don't think it's necessarily something that would bring people back.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably this system is too little, too late for those people. What I would say is that it has that. It makes every time you spend playing after level 60, where you actually kill something, mean that you always have a positive to take away. Even if you died a ton of times, you'll at least have a silver lining. And so in that sense, I think it's great for retention. But yeah, it is no end game per se. The other one thing I do like about this though is it's built into Magic Find, so it has absolutely nothing to do with like PvP. It gives you it means that PvP you can hit that max level within a reasonable time frame. You don't need to have spent 1 gazillion hours to have hit that max level. You just need to have spent a good number of hours. So I think that's cool. And the fact that it'll give you in terms of like Magic Find, it just keeps everything about the items, and Diablo's always been about the loot, and that's cool.
Yep.
It's also more Diablo 2-esque because really in Diablo 2, once you got to level 80, 85, there really wasn't any difference between, or there was such a marginal difference between being 85 and 99, and it was so hard to get to 99. You would always be trending towards it, unless you had those death, which might set you back 3 months, but you would be tracking slowly towards that goal, and that's cool. Having that positive takeaway is cool. Being more like Diablo 2 is cool. So again, if this happens, I'll be well pleased, and it again forms part of that picture. Legendaries was one part. These levels are another part.
I think it's almost like a supplementary reward for someone who's played one character for a certain amount of time, and it's probably something that it's going to take ages to get to, but almost not like a goal that you set to get to. It just happens after playing the game for a couple of years, and then your character's got all this extra magic and gold find, and that means that because you've been playing for so long, you've got more of a chance of picking up, legendary items or whatever. So it seems like, more of a supplementary thing, and almost like something that, the longer you play for, the more of a chance of getting magic items, which I think is pretty cool. Another thing I just thought I'd quickly mention is there was some information data mined again, so not confirmed information, but there was a file discovered called Experience Table Alt in the game files. There's a regular or just an experience table file, and there's an experience table PvP. In the regular experience table, it has 100 rows of data, and each of those rows is the values to level up. So in the experience table alt, it has 100 rows as well. Sorry, I should mention in the regular one, once it gets past 60, the numbers are basically placeholders, so they're just like numbers that you could never reach, basically. Whereas in this alt experience table, they are more reasonable values. So the first one being, what is it? Hang on. So the reasonable values all the way up to 100. So it looks like you actually need 3 times the XP to get from 60 to 61 compared to what you need from 59 to 60. So yeah, so reasonable values. But one thing is, I heard rumors that it was going to be based on like elite kills before, which I think I would have actually preferred, to get to like 5,000 elite kills or 500 elite kills or whatever.
That sounds like there's going to be another system with elite kills, which I haven't seen any confirmation of that, or even any, data mine confirmation of the elite kill things. But I've definitely heard word on the street that there's going to be some sort of elite kill system where if you kill a certain amount of elites, then you get something. But
was this just a Reddit post leak? Is that what this was?
Yeah, so pretty bucket of saltish,
Yeah.
Not much to that, not much credit to that. But we've on the other hand, the data mine stuff, even though it's not confirmed, 90% of the time the stuff in the data mine stuff has been going into the game. So
yeah, I know we discussed the patch notes, I think for 1.0.3, and that was like more or less pretty much spot on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's got a bit more credibility.
Yep.
And it can be verified by other people as well.
Yep.
Yeah, unlike my friend at Blizzard.
Yeah.
Cool.
But it's an interesting point with that system. The idea was if you, and this is what the leak said, if you got 500 elite kills, then on your 500th elite kill, you would be guaranteed a legendary drop.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that might be complementary to this system. I mean, there's no reason why they can't overlap. But, and I don't know if I'd prefer it. It doesn't feel very Diablo-y.
I'm sure the blog's going to come out like 2 minutes after we finish recording this episode, so we won't have to wait very long.
I'm going to refresh the main page actually, because last time something like this is exactly what happened.
Cyanide, did you have any points about that, about the paragon? Was there anything else that you noticed that we haven't noticed?
No, I just wasn't sure what it really was. I thought it would work like the Call of Duty. I think it was prestige levels.
Where
after you reach,
you don't reset. Yeah, you're not resetting anything.
Yeah.
Still, just arbitrary levels for the sake of it, to show off your worth and stuff like that. Although you get a little magic fund bonus, which to some people might be worth something, and other people not worth much. Like 1% per level's not really that much in the end.
Yeah.
At least
maybe.
It's a big difference between having no tangible benefit and a tangible benefit, no matter how.
Yeah, definitely, exactly. I'm actually a big fan of it for that reason. Just like you have something to show for everything you do.
Yeah. Hey, when I have my level 100 paragon monk, which is going to happen eventually. It's going to take a long time, but eventually it'll happen. I'm going to be pretty proud of that fact. So, I spent lots of time in my life playing this game. Yes. Cool.
Cool.
Anything else you guys wanted to mention before we close it out?
Man, like just skimming, I think we somehow managed to cover most of the important things.
Yep.
Like, there's tons of information in the data mining and tons of stuff in the blogs, but we can't logically cover all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Touch on the main.
Still waiting for the MF blog.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that.
I think that's when they'll talk about paragon levels for sure, and I'd love to find out if my theories about it are accurate or not. So
It's,
they'll probably be like more or something.
It's coming from Jay Wilson, so if there's not a doubled it and then we doubled it reference in there somewhere, I'll be a bit disappointed.
Didn't someone else throw that in their blog or something?
Yeah, there was one. Yeah.
Nice.
Which blog was it? I can't remember now.
I think it was
right
a
at the end.
damage. Like we took the damage and we doubled it.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, get a lot.
Cool.
One thing I wanted to mention that's not on these blogs related, just very quickly, is they announced that the starter edition is you don't need a key for it anymore. You can just go and download your starter edition for Diablo 3.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have friends who aren't playing, then
Sure.
and you haven't disassociated yourself with them, and they're incredibly poor, then you now have a way to hook them on the game, and they can do the starter edition. But you still can't play with non-starter edition people, which is really annoying.
Yeah, that's kind of silly.
Yeah, but if they upgrade later, they won't lose their stuff. So you could,
You can play level 13, have some fun with the Skeleton King.
Yeah,
give them a feel for the game.
That's right. And you can, so you and your friend play with the starter edition. They'll obviously, be convinced to buy an upgrade, and then they haven't lost their character that got up to the skeleton.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Well, I guess that will be all for this episode of the Diablo Herald. It has been episode number 17. If you want to see future episodes or previous episodes, you can check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/Diabloherald. You can also watch us record this live on Twitch TV, as many people are at the moment, at Twitch TV/Diabloherald. And you can tweet at me at Diabloherald if you have any questions or things you want us to talk about on the show. Please do. And you can, I think that's about it. You can email me at diabloherald@gmail.com, but probably tweet's better, unless you really hate Twitter. Well, that's a fair call. But yeah, we're on Facebook as well /Diabloherald. Highlander, do you want to plug yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to plug myself. That sounds delightful. I will also do shout-outs. I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/ScottishMoo. You can catch my Market Watch series there. I'm unfortunately stuck between real life and a hard place. And there's a lot of overlap there, so I'm trying to get some other Market Watch videos out, just talking about a couple of odd tips and bits and pieces. But each week I cover pretty much what the market's been doing there, and I also do achievement videos from occasional time to time. Other than that, follow me on Twitter at HighlanderSC.
Cool. Cyanide, have you got any shout-outs you want to mention?
Nope, just here for the fun.
Thanks for coming on, man. It was awesome to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Cool.
No problem.
Ziggy, shout-outs for you?
Yep. First shout out is to all the new viewers. Look, thanks for coming and watching, guys. We must be like one of the only groups of people still making a Diablo podcast, because everyone else got bored over the past couple of weeks where there was no news. But we somehow managed to pull some shows out, and we've been here every week. So we came very close to not coming on one week, but managed to come up with something. I just talked about Path of Exile for an hour. But as for my actual shout-outs, I'm ZiggyD StarCraft on Twitter and YouTube. I make strategy gaming videos on Diablo 3, Path of Exile, StarCraft 2 on YouTube. I also have another YouTube channel which you can find linked on that one. But yeah, follow me there and check those out.
Cool. Well, I guess that will be about it from us. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.
Cheers.
Thanks for watching. See you.
Bye.